I'd like to call the meeting to order, and will you stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman?
Yes.
Ms. Rapola-Dye?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. All right, we're looking at approval of minutes for the January 8th organizational meeting, January the 8th regular meeting minutes, and the special meeting held January 27th. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Rapola-Dye. And are there any corrections or questions? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Ms. Rapola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Thank you. Motion carried. All right, moving right into accommodations and communications, and Mr. Cedar.
Well, I'd like to share a little bit of a communication here. At the March North Central region, Dr. Bennett will be receiving a special service award. And so I wanted to bring that to the board's attention. And I know that I sent out a reminder to anybody who wants to tag along to the Villa Milano on that evening to celebrate with her and quite frankly, to have some good Italian food as well. So congratulations, and you will find a picture somewhere in there along the way.
Also, Steve Thompson, Mr. Steve Thompson is getting his 15-year award.
Oh, nice. Oh, okay, good.
And he's our representative on the Curzon.
All right, and we will move right on to reports and public participation. And
First off, we have every month we celebrate one of our buildings, and just so happens that February is Dan Emmett month. And so they have a really neat video to share, but some additional information. So Margie, I'll turn it over to you and what's going on at Dan Emmett.
all right.
You just want me to forward it, or you want to forward it?
Do you want
Just do it. Gotta give it back. Yeah, trust it.
So we were just going to highlight a few things we're doing in Dan Emmett. This year we had a lot. One thing we forgot was we were 5-star, so we did a big assembly with that. And if you read one of the newsletters, you would see some pictures and kind of our article. So we were very proud of that. The students enjoyed it. They had cool star sunglasses. We had all the sugar you needed that day. It was a fun day. Then we also are doing with the district incentives, which is the Wilson training for the dyslexia law. So we have Wilson training going on by Teresa Kingsmill, who is our special ed, and then Orton Gillingham by Sue Manchie, and she's our title reading teacher. We're all interested in the M class, so all of Dan Emmett has been using it, even the older ones for our RTI for 4th and 5th grade. So we are using that for those low at-risk kids. Then we do have the PBIS store that's growing. We started it last year. Christy started it. It's a very nice one, so now she has to keep up with it. That might be tricky. So we're hoping that's another incentive. So I'll let Christy take over some of the.
And we started PBIS rewards in our building to start tracking behavior referrals. And it's an option to also do social emotional check-ins with students. So we're starting that. And then I'm still going through the PBIS training. So we're just looking at how can we improve the implementation of PBIS, with all of the different tiers. We're doing our neurosequential model and education training. If you remember us presenting last school year, we talked about the book study, What Happened to You, and the concepts that go along with the neurosequential model. All the rest of the elementary social workers and the middle school social workers getting trained in NME this year. I'm getting the advanced training. We should be done by the end of the school year, which is exciting. But we've been implementing some of the concepts in our building, and I wanted to show an example because it's great that we talk about these things, but you don't ever,
He gave it to us.
sometimes don't get to see the after effects, but now I'm gonna hand it back to you because so this is a nice example of a current fourth grade student that we have, that we did a mini brain map with, and you can see, we've done 3 on this student. A little background information, he does have some mental health diagnoses that make it a little difficult from time to time for him to engage in the classroom. There's some instability at home. Unfortunately, his dad is in and out of jail and in and out of rehab. So this is a student that we, right away wanted to look at what are the areas that we can help improve on so that he can, better get through his days at school. So the first brain map was done last year when he was in 3rd grade. We implemented some scheduled breaks with him. We changed his, he has an aide, a one-on small group aide. So we changed that around to get a better fit for him. And really just took time to get to know him and be familiar with what helps him regulate and then what helps him co-regulate, because he wasn't always able to just do an activity and regulate on his own. Sometimes he needed an adult to help him with it. So we worked as a team with the special education teacher, the classroom teacher, put some additional supports. And when you look at October, which would be 4th grade, it showed growth from last school year, which was encouraging. The 4th grade teacher focused on really getting to know him as well and getting to know his needs. We had a summer of growth, right? So we wanted to kind of see where he was when school started. Again, strategies to help him cope and stay regulated throughout the day, we implemented into his school day. And when you see the most recent brain map, it shows growth in really all areas. So when you look at the maps, the pink is when they really need improvement. 1 is the lowest number you can score. 2 is moderate challenges, and then 3 would be he's at grade level. 4 is above grade level. So it's pretty encouraging to look at that and see the growth that he's made in a short amount of time. So we continue to give him breaks throughout the day to help him regulate his mood and keep his threat response low, because that's one of the things that when he gets into fight or flight, then that can be a long amount of time that he needs to be out of the classroom, which we don't want. So we're trying to be preventative and give him breaks throughout the day to keep him regulated. And I just think it's kind of cool to look at the brain map and see that when we meet students where they are and build the lacking skills that they have, when students feel safe and secure and understood, then we can really see some great improvements in a short amount of time. That's it.
Can I ask you a question relative to that since we're here? So the data shows improvement. Have you seen the improvement in the behavior at school?
Absolutely, and he's also one that that other adults are noticing how different he is when he carries himself down the hall, when he, he's helping other students, which is amazing, which, because he was known as one that adults would have to go to try to help. And so now we're seeing him actually try to help others.
And he's able to share his feelings.
Yeah. He can tell us what he
Yeah.
needs, which was not
Not at
anything
all.
close what he could do, in 3rd grade. So.
Was there any, was there any interaction over the summer months to help that, or was that a lot of carryover on his own, you think?
Yeah, and we purposely, with a lot of students, Mrs. Ark's really good at really knowing them and then placing them with teachers that make sense for their needs, and the aid. Doing all of those things really helped. We were able to keep the aid consistent. That was a big help to start the school year. And then just carry over some of the strategies we were using in 3rd grade to 4th grade And that teacher was really flexible in, whatever he needs, we can do. And so I think that
And he
helps
has
a
a
lot.
different aid now.
And now we
And
even
he
switched
can
his
regulate
aid.
it and he can
Yeah.
handle it. So you know there's major growth.
Yeah.
Because we're not,
Okay,
How
so
many students would you be evaluating in this one?
So we're new into all of this and trying to see how this fits into our building. So when we get behavior referrals, multiple behavior referrals on a student, that's when we start thinking, okay, well, can we do a brain map? Can we see where there's struggle and what we can do to accommodate and to help strengthen, the areas of weakness. So really, it's pretty early on we get this going because we think it's very helpful. It's good information for the teachers to have as well.
I think it's amazing, the growth.
Yeah. And those that are
Makes
really,
them feel successful.
yeah, the tough ones, and it helps the teachers understand the student. Because then if you realize, yes, chronologically, we're here, but maturity level, this is where we are now.
I'm really glad they're highlighting this because this is really interesting. All of our social workers came to us at the end of last year and really made a great case for having this kind of training. And so every one of our buildings has social workers who have been trained in this neurosequential model and brain mapping
That's what they're
component.
doing this year. So they'll be all
And
trained.
so, so at the end of the year, we'll be able to replicate some of this stuff.
I mean, you're changing children's lives.
Yes.
Next one.
So we want to close with, we have challenges every year,
Yes.
right? It's been a challenging year for a lot of different reasons, and we're just.
Before we start, I want to let you know, NME is over. So this half of the school year, we are actually doing whole brain teaching. Don't know if any of you have seen it. But the first module is actually everything we've done. So it talks about the brain, so the teachers are getting a refresh on that. But then it goes into strategies. So we're getting into, I tell them, even if you just pick one thing out of here that you could try, it talks more about, you want to see it, Jody? It talks more about the audio, the kinesthetic, and the verbal, doing a lot of different hands-on. And we have a teacher, Mrs. Morris, that came from, which one is it? I always say Northmore, is it where's your wife work though? Northmore?
Northridge.
Northridge, see, I always mess it up. So she came from Northridge, and I was in awe when I did her first observation. She talked about it in her interview, but when I saw it in action, I'm like, wow, I have never in almost 30 years seen anything like this. So we talked with her, and now that's our book study, and people are starting to look at the different ways to reach kids. And it really does help. So it's going to be something that we're just going into module 2 now. It's an easy read too. But then to finish up, this comes from what we've done, and get your tissues out.
We were asked the question, what makes you want to come to school every day? And they said, think of somebody that makes you want to come to school. They asked me that. And guess who I said?
You!
I said you. You make me want to come to school. So I wrote you a letter and I'm going to read it to you, okay? Okay, it says, you have the absolute best heart and you have a heart of gold and you always make me feel special. You do that. And there's 2 things you say to me every single day. No matter what, you tell me these 2 things. You tell me, Miss Farr, I love you.
I love you.
I
You're
know.
the best teacher in the universe.
And that's the second thing you tell me every single day. And do you want to know how that makes me feel?
Happy.
It makes me feel so happy. And then you always give me a hug, and it makes me feel so special. It makes me feel so special. And guess what? I can never have a bad day. I can't.
Tell me.
Because of you.
Well, else you will have a bad day.
I would. And that's why when you weren't here for a couple of days, I was so sad. And you came back, and remember I cried when you came back. Charlie, you are the reason that I come to school every day, and I couldn't even cry during this because of your face. You make me so happy. Thank you for being such a good student.
Okay, so Erilyn, I wanted to tell you that I've been teaching for 10 years. Isn't that a long time?
Yeah.
And in all of my years, sometimes you get a student who comes to school and they work really hard and they participate and they're always trying their best, and you always do that. And you brighten my day, and you make me want to come here every single day because you are amazing. And I can't believe how much you've grown this year. Remember when you couldn't write your name? And now you write your name all your time, and you know all of your letters. I'm just so proud of you. You make it so wonderful for me to come to work today. You're the reason I come to school. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I come to school every day because I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see Erilyn. She's awesome. She's gonna try hard for me, and she just fills my bucket every day.
Okay, so I just wanted to tell you, because I don't get to tell you this enough, why I am a teacher. There's a lot of reasons I'm a teacher, but you're one of them. Do you know why?
No.
That smile on your face is priceless. So every day I come, I look forward to seeing your smile. And you are such a good leader and helper. Do you know what that does?
Yeah.
That helps me be a better leader and helper. I see how you help people and I help people, and I'm inspired by you every day. Because you're so thoughtful and kind, and you always come smiling. And I just wanted you to know how special that is to me. But as a teacher, I really appreciate all that you do to help me and all the kids in our class and how hard you work. I also teach to help you learn to read and write and all that stuff, but I just really love being with you and working with you, and you just make my day and my life so much better.
Okay.
You are my reason why I come to work every day, to see your faces and to see you every day. Can you say, who am I?
Mrs. Miller.
You're so good. Nice job. I love you guys. Yeah.
So, Miss Danzuzo asked me about why I liked coming to school. And I had to think about it. And then she asked me who I liked coming to school for. And of course, you know, we have a great class of students this year. But she asked me to focus on one, and so I picked you. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to say to you, by the way, it's Elf Day. I don't look like this every day, right? Right? Okay. So when I was thinking about why I chose you, several words that describe you came to my mind, and I'll just throw them out there. The kids think you're super, super smart, and you are, but what they don't give you enough credit for is your dedication, because I know you work really hard. You do. You do everything to excellence. You don't just give me what I want, but you give me beyond, and that makes me very excited to be a teacher. And I also love it when you do the big aha moments, because I see your light bulb go off when you go, oh, oh, and I love that. I love seeing how, even though some of the stuff you may have some inkling about already, it always seems like you're excited to learn more. So hard work, dedication, you're responsible, you're kind to others, you're really good with your classmates and your peers. When you explain things, they get it. So I think you have an awful lot to add, but to me, you make me challenged. You give me a challenge every day. So when you say something that I'm not sure about, it makes me want to look it up and find out if you're right or not. And that's good for a teacher. So the reason I like being a teacher, you are my why. You are the reason that I like coming to school every day, and I am so happy that you are with me this year in my classroom. I love you, girly.
Okay, so Mrs. Sanzuzo came to me this morning and she asked me if I would like to be in her video. And what she wanted the teachers to do is to talk to a student and tell them why they enjoy coming to work. And so I wanted to talk to you, and I wanted to say thank you so much, because I know we have lots of things that we're working on, but I feel like you've really been trying very hard lately. And it meant a lot to me that you brought me a really thoughtful gift this morning, and I see how kind you are, and you can be really helpful. And so I just wanted to tell you I really appreciate your hard work, and you're really funny, and you're the reason why I come to work. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that cool?
Yep.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel really happy, and I just feel like that I can always say that whenever I can.
Yeah, you like coming to school? Good, awesome. Well, we're working on it, aren't we?
Yeah.
All right, cool.
Miss Adeline, you are my why. And what I mean by that is, you and all the other kiddos are my reason that I come to school. You put your heart and soul into what you're doing, and I know that you care really, really gigantic amounts about what we're working on, because you always try your best. And when you get something right, you light up like a Christmas light, like the lights around us. And it is you and all the kiddos like you. That is why I love being a teacher. Thank you for letting me be your teacher, sweet pea.
Because they do them all. But it kind of went along with our theme, and is that not wonderful?
Yeah.
I mean,
Very much.
doesn't give you goosebumps, nothing.
That's great.
Any questions for them?
Thank you for what
Keep
you're
it up.
doing. Absolutely.
It's terrific. I have a question. How does the science of reading kind of fold into the neuroscience model, or does it?
It really is science of reading, because they are the higher functioning kids, but they might not show it academically, and we have some of those. So it's taught us to open up, which I didn't realize dyslexia. You don't typically have trouble tying shoes and stuff. Before you're just like, we've got to teach you how to do that. But that's one of those character traits of dyslexia, which I never knew that until Miss Marat told you she's excellent. She shared that with me. So we're learning more about how that brain is working, since reading is not, it's something you have to be taught. It's not innate, because we don't understand how to scramble those letters to make sounds, to make words, to make comprehension. So it is interesting. I think we're all taking aha how important the brain is with all of us and the maturation, versus, well, you have to learn that. Well, I have to teach that. It's taking that whole child. So that's what I get out of it.
Great.
It does. And I do believe in the science of reading. I definitely.
Beautiful work.
It is. It's all the pieces all together.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Hey, who's here?
Let's say, oh, come on up.
All right, so high school update. We have winter sports wrapping up, of course. Wrestling OCCs are this weekend, and swimming districts are next week as well. We had 5 divers, 4 relays, 2 individuals go on to districts, which is amazing. That's a great record. And the regular season is finishing up as well. There's a blood drive coming out for Key Club as well that they're working on. And there's also a musical on April 19th and 20th. It's a bit of ways, but it's coming up. And we have the juniors are taking their ACT on February 27th. Oh, and also the forum show, of course. Auditions finished up, I think, yesterday, Sunday. So those are the last auditions, or tryouts. And then the shows are going to be on March 15th, 16th, and 17th. There's 2 on the 16th, 2 p.m. and 7 p.m. And then the 15th to 7 p.m. is
Right. Thank you for coming. All right. All right. We will move on to public participation. And we have 3 that have signed up for that. And Mrs. Forney will keep our time. We like to limit it to 3 minutes each. So first up is Paige Harris. Paige, come on up.
I would like to start with saying thank you for letting me speak, Board. I greatly appreciate it. And I would also like to take a moment by stating that the elementary schools in this school district are wonderful. Love them. Every single teacher in the buildings genuinely care about the safety, the well-being of every student that is there, and they make sure that bullying is non-existent. I have 3 children that I have put through the elementary schools, and I have not one complaint. And now I move on to your middle school. Day 1, my son was called a name by his teacher, a dingleberry. Very disgusting term to call a child. Is it that wrong? No, it's not a horrible name, but it opened up the door for every single bully in his classroom. To now we have my son having his book bag ripped off of him, his Chromebook knocked out of his hands, and intense name calling. And then we fast forward just a little bit. My son is in the lunchroom, is completely assaulted, thrown through the lunchroom. I was not even called. He asked Miss Elliott if he could call me. Miss Elliott looked my son in the face and told him no. He was not allowed to call me after being assaulted. I had to find out from my son after he was home from school. That's a ball drop. Then I would also like to fast forward a little further, and my son and 3 other students were involved in singing into a birthday song. 3 students were in trouble. My son was pulled out. The teacher in question put up her hands and threatened my son, saying word for word, "What I want to do to you is illegal, but I can't right now because I'm your teacher." There's no audio for that video, coincidentally. I am also here to speak behalf of all of the parents and students that are voiceless and that cannot be here tonight. If you could look through my messages, I have over 37 parents that are dealing with the same abuse from same students, same teachers, and same principals. That's a problem. And if you do not see that as a problem, then you need to rethink your humanity. I'd also like to state that Miss Elliott sent children's services to my home on a complete and total false allegation. My report was closed in less than 24 hours. That is misuse of power. And if you think also, you need to also rethink your humanity, because I was humiliated having children's services at my door when I am above and beyond parent. We will also go forward. I have other parents that have given me permission that can't be here. The middle school has decided to take a child's aid away from them through emails. The parent was never had a face-to-face. The child is on several levels of spectrums: Down syndrome, autism, special. He's a very special boy, okay? We love him dearly. His aid was taken away from him last year, at the end of last year. The day his aid was taken from him, he walked across 4 busy roads to try to get home. No sidewalks. He barely even knew where he was going. He was picked up by someone that was familiar with him in karate and taken home. That's a ball drop.
That's time. Paige, thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I will be back. I appreciate you.
And Summer Roach.
Thank you. My name is Summer Roach. I actually work for a home health business. It is called Gant Homes Industries. I take care of adults that were special needs in school. They didn't meet the development as most children do and excel in their day-to-day life. So I take care of them after school. My son was recently assaulted on January 25th of this year at school. He asked to call me and notify me of the assault. Miss Elliott informed him that she would notify me when her investigation was done. As any parent, we would like to be notified as soon as our child is struck. For any relative to emergencies, if they had a concussion, his head did end up bouncing off of a school locker. Mr. Cedar showed me the video in his office. I did then play an audio clip for Mr. Cedar of the way that Miss Elliott was talking to my son, who was the victim of physical assault that day, where she was, I feel, violating the Code of Professional Conduct for Ohio educators, specifically Section 2, Professional Relationships with Students, and subsection B, committing an act of cruelty toward children or an act of child endangerment, whether it's physical, psychological, or emotional abuse. To be in the power, the role of authority, and to smack your hands and have an elevated tone and demean a child who called their parents and let them know that they were hit because the school refused to call them. He was denied access to call me, and that's a violation of the Professional Code of Conduct as well, to notify parents when their child has been assaulted. I'm also speaking for another parent who has a nonverbal son with Down syndrome who was physically assaulted by his aide, Sue Braxton. She has been removed from the school, to my knowledge. It's not just with students, it's with teachers. It's gone on. And as somebody who takes care of people with special needs in their afterlife, we find that when children aren't given, like the young lady said at Dan Emmett, the safety, like the feeling of being safe for the brain map testing, you see their scores jump up when they actually feel safe and secure. And it's not just elementary students either. That goes on through middle school and high school on making sure that these kids feel safe. If they don't feel safe, it halts their education, which then halts their further life skills. I just thought that it needs to be addressed because feels like nothing is being done about it. And I personally want to see all of the kids through middle school, high school, and every single elementary school be successful and thrive and grow for success instead of feeling like they are shut down because they feel unsafe by teachers and aides and other students. And that is all I have to say. If you have any questions, I am free to answer any of them.
Thank you for sharing tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. And Mrs. Andrea White.
Hi, good evening. I'm Andrea White. My husband and I have 2 children. One, a high school swimmer and diver, headed to district competition in both sports this week and this weekend. And one in middle school who completed Power of the Pen this past Saturday and will start track in a week. I stand before you to commend 2 remarkable middle school educators, Mrs. Britt Sivright and Mrs. Esther Sadoff, and to advocate fervently for the expansion of athletic and socialization opportunities for middle school students. Firstly, I want to express my heartfelt appreciation for Mrs. Esther Sadoff's outstanding leadership of Power of the Pen creative writing team. This past weekend, the 7th and 8th grade teams participated in the district tournament at Licking Heights, where the 8th grade team won the 2nd place prize. And for individual awards, Carmela Barrett came in 6th, Layla Grimm came in 5th, and Evelyn Brandberg came in 2nd. The 7th grade team was the reigning champion, taking home 1st place prize. For individual awards, Miriam Vanderhoof came in 11th, Naomi McFarland came in 6th, and Allison Brooks came in 5th. These writers will go on to compete at the regional tournament in March. And Mrs. Sadoff's commitment to nurturing creativity and literary skills among our middle schoolers is truly commendable. They've been practicing twice a week after school since the school year started. And I do express my gratitude to her for her dedication to this program, Power of the Pen. Additionally, I wish to commend Mrs. Britt Sivright, the middle school social studies head, championing the recognition of Black History Month at Mount Vernon Middle School. It's heartening to witness the school's embrace of this important initiative, including daily announcements of Black leaders and a door decorating contest centering around African Americans in the arts, which is the national theme or focus this year of Black History Month. Mrs. Sivright's efforts to promote inclusion, Black representation, and respect within our school community are invaluable, particularly in a district where Black leadership among faculty and administrators is sparse, save for Mrs. Kennerly in the high school guidance office. Recognizing and celebrating Black history and culture is crucial not only for fostering a sense of belonging and respect among our students, but also for promoting a more inclusive and equitable learning environment. Finally, our middle schoolers desperately need more athletic and socialization opportunities. Last week, there was a daily announcement every day at the middle school reminding students that they were not to linger outside with their friends after they got off the bus in the morning, but instead they are required to go directly to their first period class or get to breakfast. These children are telling you with their behavior that they need more socialization opportunities. To this end, I strongly encourage the board to consider the establishment of a middle school swim team or club. With the discontinuation of the feeder programs, such as the YMCA swim team that was killed 8 years ago, and the club team hosted by Kenyon College, which was killed this last October, my middle school child's mental health took a nosedive in October.
Mrs. White, I'm sorry, your 3 minutes are there.
Middle school swim club. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing tonight. We will move on to board items for discussion.
Actually, I have a couple additions and deletions.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
We didn't have any board items.
Okay, nothing for discussion. All right, we'll move on to additions and deletions.
Item 8B is the addition of a jacket journal donation. Item 11B is the approval of a new resolution. And item 11B is deleting of a spring stipend contract. So those have been reflected in your board agenda.
Thank you.
So you can go there.
Moving on to superintendent's report.
Before I share the superintendent's report, I know this is a business meeting, but at the same time, I feel like I want to respond just briefly. I mean, I hear your frustration, those who spoke tonight. I'm sorry you haven't had more positive experiences, especially at the middle school. That's something we certainly take wholeheartedly and we need to look into. We too, quite frankly, share your frustration. I think you heard a little bit of it tonight. We've seen a significant increase in different behavioral challenges over the past year and a half. Anywhere from students melting down to just students with high anxiety, quite frankly, disrespect, defiance, and yes, even bullying. I mean, bullying's been around for, as long as I was in school, but at the same time, we just seem to have moved in areas that we need to continue to work on. When it kind of comes to bullying, and I know that's an easy word to kind of add or throw in nowadays, and certainly there are times when it's absolutely true. It can be physical or verbal, but it has to be intentional and it has to be repeated. And sometimes we think of things happening in a singular incident and we just automatically attach. If it's repeated and it's intentionally hurtful, then we need to deal with it. And if we fall short, we need to admit falling short and we need to do something about it. I will say that I get a lot of phone calls and I get emails. And oftentimes I'll reach out to principals and I'll say, hey, have you heard about this or that? And invariably, sometimes this kind of fits in three buckets. A third of the time, I'll mention something to a principal or a principal will mention something to a teacher and they'll say, I haven't heard from that student. They haven't said anything to us. And the reality is, if we don't know about it, we can't do anything about it. And I know sometimes they'll go home and they'll share with mom and dad, and I can only imagine how frustrating that is, and they may share another incident, but if we don't know, we can't do anything about it. There's another probably third that we hear about it, the principals hear about it, or teachers hear about it, we look into the situation, and then you get into that where you can't really prove or validate that what's being alleged actually occurs. And so you get into the he said and she said, and you can have conversations and tell them, hey, we can't have this. But beyond that, you're really just kind of trying to intervene. And then certainly we have those ones that we can validate. And I can tell you at the middle school, and again, for those who haven't had great experiences, I feel bad about that. But I can tell you that they're dealing with bullying and they're dealing with it on a daily basis. And it may be one of those that I just shared, or it may be one that, unfortunately, maybe you don't know about, and that there's a lot of work behind the scenes. There's investigations that are going on. And when we can validate it, we have students who do detentions. We have students who have in-school suspension. We have stay-away agreements. We even have students who have been suspended out of school, and quite frankly, even all the way to expulsion. So we're dealing with it. It's a difficult thing to deal with. And unfortunately, I almost feel like some of our behaviors are a reflection of where we're at in society today. It can be pretty divisive. When you see even leaders who are using names and kind of carrying on in ways that, we all know probably isn't right, well, what do we expect out of our youngsters? And we've got to try to teach them better. And that's where I really love what you're doing there at D&M. So I don't want you to think that we're ignoring it. We got some amazing teachers at the middle school. We do. And they're working hard at it. And it may not always be the outcome somebody wants. But it's not because they are trying to brush things under the carpet or just dismiss it. So I really just wanted to share that before I went into my district update. Hopefully that's okay. I have a couple interesting things here, and just kind of plans out that way. So I've got one additional challenge I want to share, and then some exciting news I want to share too at the same time. So this is a challenge. We've been dealing with this now for some time. There was a time in students' lives, really prior to COVID, where smoking among the teenage population had dropped. We weren't seeing as much of it. It wasn't the thing to do. And then all of a sudden vaping came along and you started to see commercials and you started to, you got into flavorings, and all of a sudden it kind of started to pick back up. And we're almost back to a point where we're almost renormalizing smoking. And it's a problem. We still have in this country about 480,000 deaths each year due to smoking, and it's preventable. So this is all new, and I don't know how much you all know about vaping and what that's about. I had to do a lot of lookup. I mean, my day it was a cigarette, and that was it. Well, then they came out with e-cigarettes, and now they come out with vaping, and it can look all different ways. I mean, it can look. I mean, if you look it up online, it just has a whole different set of looks, but has some basic functions to it. There's a mouthpiece where you put it over your mouth, all right, and then there's this tank or this chamber where there's like a liquid that is in there, and then there's what's called the atomizer. That's like the heating coils that are inside. You press a button that's attached to a battery, and it heats up this substance that's inside that tank chamber, and it vaporizes it. It makes it a vapor. And that's what is popular today and that more and more kids are doing. And so just understanding how it works. Now you can get even deeper. Now they have dab pens where now it's not even a cartridge you put in. You got to actually open it up and actually put wax or marijuana. You put it on top of the coils, you press the button and it burns, and that's the smoke that kind of comes from it. There are some similarities here. Both are harmful to a person's health. Both deliver nicotine. Here's the differences as I've begun to really dig into it. A vapor is inhaled versus smoke inhaling. So when you smoke a cigarette, it's burning at the end and you're getting the smoke. When you're taking a vape, it's actually taking that oil, whatever's inside there, it's heating it up and it's vaporizing it, and you're getting that into your lungs versus the smoke. Here's the interesting one, this next one. In a vape, it's controlled nicotine. In a cigarette, it's fixed. So you got a cigarette, you're going to get what's there. But in a vape, you can control if you want a little bit of nicotine or if you want a lot more nicotine, based upon the cartridge that you put in or based upon the settings that you have. Vaping is less expensive than smoking. Smoking a pack of cigarettes today, I think it's pretty expensive. But these cartridges are not. Vaping is somewhat odorless, where smoking obviously has that smell that we all grew up and knew that it was kind of a bad smell. They tried to make vaping really interesting and added all these flavors. You can see all the flavors at the bottom. So there are countless flavors that almost make it like candy cane, or all of these different things, where a cigarette is really kind of a regular or a menthol. The difference here at the bottom, I believe, is that it's highly addictive. Vaping is highly addictive because it goes immediately into the bloodstream versus the smoke, which has to go through the lungs and be absorbed differently. And the fact that you can increase the nicotine to higher levels to get that kind of an effect or feeling that you want. Vaping is more popular among children than smoking ever was. From 2022 to 23, the proportion of children experimenting with vaping grew 50%. And the challenge with that is it's now becoming a bit of a gateway leading to something else, right? So this is Mount Vernon vaping statistic, and I'm just, thankfully I surveyed all the elementary principals, and we don't have it going down to K5. I hope. At least we're not having it at school, and that's a good thing. However, the high school and the middle school, we're seeing much more instances of vaping and bringing those things to school. It's different than a pack of cigarettes. And you don't have to light it up. You can just simply hit that button, take a quick hit. It's odorless, and you can go throughout your day. We've had 28 instances of vaping at the high school with multiple offenders. We've had 8 incidences that involve THC. At the middle school, we had 32 incidences of vaping with multiple offenders, some doing it, counting more in that 32, and one incident involving THC. So these little cartridges that you put in vape, it can be just nicotine. But now they're starting to put THC in them. And now with the legalization and all that we're kind of going through, you're starting to see this grow and grow and grow. A D8 there, that is a level of nicotine. Guess what? D9 is a little bit more. Guess what? D10, and you can now buy these. Some you can even buy in gas stations. And so we're just kind of continuing this increase. And on Friday of last week, we had several students who, using a vape that had some THC in it, had a bad reaction. And so we don't even know what's in some of these cartridges. And were taken to the hospital in an ambulance. This is a big concern for us. We have vape detectors in every high school restroom. And you know what? They go off, but then you've got to go to the restroom, find out who was there, and then you get into the whole kind of questioning and searching, and yet it just kind of is one of those things that continues. And so we're really struggling and trying to find ways to kind of address this ongoing situation, because it does feel like we're reinserting cigarettes and nicotine. Once you get that hit, you need it again. I had a set of parents in last week, and they were so frustrated that they called it an addiction. Their child was addicted to the nicotine and couldn't not do it. And we've got to really fight this problem together, okay? So I just wanted to bring you up to date. If you didn't know anything about vaping or dab pens, or I wish we didn't have to know anything about this stuff, but we do. So the better part. So we met as a board here in our special session, and we believe right now we have this really unique window of opportunity to look at our facilities. And it's an exciting time. We started a little bit of this in 2018. I know Andrea went around with us to every building, and we kind of started down this road, and then we kind of pulled back and we held off. We never forgot that. So we believe the window of opportunity is now. So over the course of the next year and 2 months, we're going to begin what's called a master facility plan process. It's facilitated by a firm that we use all the time for a lot of our buildings and facilities, Fanning and Howie. And you'll see a number of steps along the way. And I'm just quickly going to run down through these so you have a sense of what this master process looks like. The first thing we do is we're going to collect a lot of information. And we've started that process. That information can be historical facility data. So that's looking at each one of our buildings, what's inside, what's outside, the age of the building, the amenities of the building. You could go to Dan Emmett, and as great a job as they do, they don't have a cafeteria, and would love a cafeteria, right? We'll look at enrollment projections, facility assessments, educational vision, and some board goals. So we're going to collect all of this information. I always put this in there because I think it surprises some folks. And this will be part of the data that we collect. This is the age of some of our facilities. We have 5 of our 8 buildings that are well over 50 years old, 2 buildings that are centurions and plus, and some of those facilities, as wonderful as we've maintained them and the staff that's there is great, they're showing their age and they're showing some efficiency issues that we need to address. This is another reason why we're looking at master facilities. Not only is it our current situation, but we got to look at the future too. And so, this is just a snapshot of just what the future could look like. Whether it comes to fruition, we'll see. But if you've been up to Gilcrest and you've seen the Rockford construction, they're going in right now. Gilcrest Estates is on the run. The Highland real estate is coming. When you're thinking of potentially 1,200 new housing starts in the next 3 to 5 years, we have to be forward thinking and plan for that kind of expansion. So that, again, that's all part of the facility project and looking at it. The second thing we're going to do is connect stakeholders. This isn't something that's done in a small way. There is first what's called a facility core committee. That's a small group that really tries to build the big group, all right? And that group will usually consist of the small group, 1 to 2 board members, some facilities treasurers, and a couple community leaders. And this group will end up really developing this next group, which is the facility advisory committee. This will probably have about 40 to 80 committee members who are going to commit to 6 meetings and 2 community meetings, and we want to represent the entire district. And so we'll really try to put that group together. And I would think somebody like Mrs. White would be a part of that committee, or she'll probably find herself being asked anyway. But it's really important to have community folks involved. So we're going to be looking at teachers, parents, community leaders, business leaders, school clubs, and organization. But this big group cannot have more than 50% employees from the district. So it's got to be parents, outside community members that are focused on this group. That group will get together 6 different meetings. I'm just going to run through these really fast. The first meeting might look something like this. We're going to talk about our purpose. Collect, connect, create, complete the process. Facility assessments, information. The second meeting is we'll take tours of the facility. And so we'll take this group of 40 to 80 folks, and we're going to begin to tour the facilities and really get a chance to see what it is and rank our needs and do all of those kinds of things. We'll do some baseline surveys. We'll come back and review those. We'll do some educational vision in the third meeting.
Some competition.
You're bebopping out there, I guess. And then we'll get together and we'll create some options. So options will be created for consideration. Those options would then be discussed at a fourth meeting, where 3 scenarios would then be looked at and addressed. Then we'll pull the whole community in, and we'll have a community meeting number 1. We'll share the plan. We'll share all the work that's been out there and the different kinds of information that have come from all of that work through the first 4 meetings. And then the 5th meeting, we'll get back together with the smaller group, and we'll look to revise some of the feedback that we got from that community meeting, and then we'll come back to the community one last time and just share what that looks like. It could look like this. It could look like we go through this whole process and we just all agree that what we have is the best that we have. Let's just make the best of it and we'll revise it. It could look differently. It could look like, hey, we want to look at different structure and how we educate. Maybe we want an intermediate. Maybe we need 1 new building. Maybe we need 2 new buildings. I mean, all of this has to be determined by the community. This isn't just a board sitting up here and making a decision that we're going to build this or build that. It has to be a collaboration that we work through. And then we'll finally, in the final meeting, based upon 2 big community meetings, we'll come back with a recommendation to this board that basically says, here's what we believe. And if that means putting up a bond issue, then that's what it means. It means putting up a bond issue. If it means, hey, we just want to revise some of the stuff we currently have, then we may still have to put up a bond issue just for that. There are some interesting things along the way that everyone will learn. The Ohio Facilities Construction Commission helps fund projects like this. Right now, Mount Vernon City Schools sits on 50 cents on a dollar. So anything that we would do, the state would come along and participate in 50% of that. That will come along through the whole process. And so then we'll finally get to the end of the stage where we'll feel like a complete process. We'll feel like we have confidence in the process, and then it's all in the hands of the voters if we should choose to move forward. So there are some exciting times ahead. I don't know if the board has any questions relative to that, but kind of wanted to officially kind of get that moving in the right direction. And I would suspect that here in March we'll begin to develop our bigger committees that are going to represent all 8 buildings. We'll look for PTO members and community members from all 6 of our elementaries, and then we'll look at middle school and high school at the same time. Okay.
Question, Mr. Cedar, is visiting any other school districts as to see what some of their buildings look like?
From my understanding, as we go through the visioning piece and we determine things that we think we like, we're kind of landing on it, they may say, you know what, I know a place that just did that, and it might be worth a site visit. So I think there is that possibility, because the way they're building new buildings today, it's a little different than our traditional classroom from the early 1900s. So there could involve site visits to other places. Yep. Okay. All right. That's all I have as far as items for information in the district update. I do have items for board approval tonight. One is a home community school student participation and resolution for membership to the Ohio High School Athletic Association.
Okay, I would entertain a motion for the homeschool and the authorization into OHSAA.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye, and thank you, Dr. Bennett. Any questions? Okay. Hearing none, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, moving on to curriculum instruction, and Dr. Bennett.
Instead of doing success, I wanted to share some resources that the Ohio School Board Association has. And these were sent to all the student achievement leaders from Kim Miller-Smith. Most of you know Kim Miller-Smith. And I just want you to be aware of this. You can log on to Ohio School Boards Association, ohioschoolboards.org. And when that comes up, you can look at resources, and you'll find the first one I'd like you to look at is the Advancing Student Achievement, which is pulled up right now. And the other next one is the notes on the board's role, which is right there. You'll stop. And you can click on each of those and read those. I'm not going to take time to do that now, but I want you to be aware that that is there. And there are core skills that effective boards must exhibit to ensure that all students achieve at high levels. And these are skills that form a framework for effective school governance. And this is based on research that's been done. An effective board has been shown focuses on the key areas of vision, accountability, policy, community engagement, public school advocacy, and relationships. So if you have time to look those over, and maybe we'll even have a work session sometime on student achievement, but it's my responsibility to keep student achievement before you, and to make you remember how important that is, and I know you already do. The second thing I'd like to point out is at the bottom, if you'll go down on the left, no, not that far, where it has the menu on the left. Where it says Student Achievement Promotion, right? Okay. And you'll see there are two ways to access it, where it says download the complete toolkit or Student Achievement Toolkit, either of those.
You want to open it up?
The top, right. Either way. And this begins with opportunities to recognize student achievement, and if you'll scroll down, you'll see they've come up with all kinds of things, that some not that far, if you go back up, right there. All kinds of things that maybe some we haven't thought of. So just to review those and see where we might be falling short, that we might identify student achievement in those areas. And as you'll scroll on down, they have media coverage, and we talked about communication and how important that is. And they have ideas for, if you keep on scrolling, you can see how to connect with positive events that we share with our media. And then using infographics, and they point out there's a software package, I don't know if you can see it, Canva, and it's free. And maybe you're already using it, but you can use that. And then if you'll scroll down, they show you just an example of how to get your story out and facts in an easy, digestible way. And we've already done some of this. And then the last part is again about communication and communicating are great things that are going on in our district. And we already do a great job, but we can always do more to tell our story. So I just wanted you to be aware that all of these resources are available to all of us, and you can easily access them. So, any questions?
Thank you for that.
And Kim Miller-Smith will thank you whenever. And I know we can do a better story of focusing on our graduates. We've got some graduates that have neat stories to tell.
If you want to sneak out, you can sneak out.
I have an extra copy. Oh, let me stop by and pick it up.
I'm sorry,
Thank
I
you.
usually say
Thank
that
you.
before.
Thank you.
We have no items in this section for board approval tonight.
Moving on to fiscal services. Mrs. Forney.
Okay, if you want to open up the financial report for Mr. Cedar. The first page, as always, after the cover is a reconciliation, the bank reconciliation for the month of January, ending January. And we ended up that month with $13,787,000. We did get the first advance of our of the taxes for the second half of the taxes, second half of the fiscal year, first half of taxes. So there's a little bit of that in there, but you can see what that looks like. That money is either in Park National or in U.S. Bank through our investment company. The next page that I always like to show you is where we are, where we thought we should be and where we are. We are 58% of the way through the fiscal year. The reason that we are a little bit low on the second line, because those are property taxes. Obviously, we should have about half of those in, so that's about where we think we should be. The other revenues are right about where they should be. The line 1.050, that's also connected to the property tax. That's not called property tax allocation anymore. It's called state share of local taxes or something. They've changed the name to it, but it's the same thing. It's the rollback. And then, so if you go down to the revenues or the expenditures, I'm sorry, on our salaries, we're 58%. So that tells me that $24,588,000 for the year is just right about where it should be. I don't have any reason to think that it'll be off by much, because the stipends and the other things that come in during the year just come in during the year. So that should be about right. Our benefits, the retirement and our insurance is right there, 59. The purchase services is a little bit low. That's a good thing. And remember that includes things like utilities, contracts that we have with companies for like special ed services, those kinds of things, and professional development. That's what's in there. So our utilities may be a little lower. Maybe we've got in-house people doing more of our services rather than having to contract out. But for right now, we're just a little bit under where we would have been, which is a good thing. Our supplies and materials, it is February, so the fiscal year's, or the school year is going to be close to over. We have, what do we have, about $60,000 there that we could spend, but typically we try to tell the buildings about this time of the year to just get what they need for the rest of the year, but don't spend stuff for next year. So we like to keep this down. So that could be, it's going to be pretty close. And our capital outlay, we don't really put too much in here because of our PI money that we mostly spend on those kind of purchases. So actually I should look up and see what we spent $8,600 on. But something small, obviously, in the big picture. And then other objects are things like tuition, ESC costs, those kinds of things. So all in all, 58.19, we're right about where we think we should be for our expenditures as well. Here's our investment interest. Now we're up over $250,000 for the year. Again, that's for 7 months of the year. So we're on chart there to do pretty well with our investments. And then the rest of the pages are just the
Checks, right?
the cash summary, which shows you all the funds and what the balances are, and then the checks and the revenues and the rest. The next item is the 5-year forecast. If you remember, in November, we brought you one that was really incomplete because we didn't know what our tax valuations were. This is the one that we talked about at our special meeting, and
there were a couple of adjustments that we made, so those have been made. If you want to compare those to the other one, it made a little bit of difference, but it's right about where we thought it was going to be. So once that's approved, I'll submit that one to the state to take the place of the other one. The next item is the Certificate of Estimated Resources and Appropriations. At the beginning of the fiscal year, we have to tell the county auditor how much money we think we're going to get for each fund and how much we think we're going to spend for each fund. So you can see we made a change in August. No changes now until this time, and we got an extra $60,000 in a safety grant to spend, which I believe Rick already has all taken care of. So. And then title, he's very good at that. Title III is, it was a small grant that we got for English learners, so that'll go towards some of that. So we had to make those changes on the certificate part, so we can tell the auditors, oops, we're getting a little bit more than we thought we were, because the next one that you see, the appropriations right next to it, that has to be increased also, because now that we have the money, we can go in and do the appropriations to match. So we actually increased that by the exact same amount. So those things have to be sent to the auditor. If we don't, and we get to the end of the year, they're going to tell me, hey, back in February, you appropriated something, you didn't have the money, and you didn't have the board approve it. So once you approve it, those will go in. Resolution accepting rates every year in March. By March, that has to be done. I got that from the auditor last week. All that is the auditor's office sending us a document that said, this is what your rates are, and we want your board to take a look at it. So you can look at that. That's just sort of a common practice. And then we have some donations to Pleasant Street from Inner Church, 3 boxes of miscellaneous school supplies. Also to Pleasant Street from the Lake Home Church of the Nazarene, the ABCs of Encouragements for Girls in memory of Sandra Fennell. Also to Pleasant Street from the Gay Street Methodist Church, 3 large boxes of new hats, gloves, leggings, socks, and undergarments. Again, Pleasant Street kindergarten class from Mary Crum, 56 bags of supplies and toys. We have to Dan Emmett from Inner Church miscellaneous school supplies. And then we have an anonymous donor who gave $1,000 to the Mount Vernon High School Jacket Journal. That's all I have.
That was a lot. Thank you. All right. I would entertain a motion for the fiscal services as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Workman, and thank you, Dr. Bennett. Any questions or corrections?
No questions, but thanks to Judy. That is a lot of information to keep straight, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. Absolutely, yes. That and all of the donations are always greatly appreciated, so those are great. All right. Hearing no questions or further comments, would you call the roll?
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mrs. Rolladai?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Okay, motion carried, thank you. On to business services.
Thank you. Just for information for the public and regarding Governor DeWine's school bus safety group that have met this past year, some of the suggestions, these are not dictated, but suggestions include continued education for drivers, encourage districts to have district drivers participate in critical incident response, and to create and conduct performance evaluations. There were no recommendations regarding seat belts in buses because that's up to each individual district because Ohio is locally controlled in regards to that. Recently introduced in legislation includes HB 318, a full homestead exemption for surviving members of uniformed services killed in the line of duty. HB 380, designate a portion of Interstate 70 in Licking County as Tuscarawas Valley Memorial Highway. I'm sure that will pass, and it's well-deserved and sad. HB 387 would dissolve existing academic distress commissions and repeal the law for new commissions. I think that was introduced once before, several years ago. HB 306 would phase out state income tax on non-businesses and repeal commercial taxes in some instances. And SB 219 would change some of our educator license grade bands, which I hope does not happen because it seems like they're always changing our requirements for our teachers. If anybody has any questions or comments or ideas for me to give to our legislators at the State House, I'd be happy to relay that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think just to add to what you said, the grade bands are going to be improved from where it was, allowing for more flexibility for teachers to teach at various grade levels. So
I hope so.
may go back to something similar to the kind of the OK certificate versus the K3, then the 4.9 and.
That would be a good change.
We have a number of items for board approval in this section tonight, all facility use requests mostly, and you can see those listed there. It's hard to believe we're already talking spring sports and softball. We also have the approval of a resolution for Meta Solutions to purchase natural gas at a competitive price. So those two items for board approval.
I would entertain a motion for facility use request and approval of Meta Solutions.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. And a second.
Second. Oh, sorry.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye. Any questions or concerns? Okay, hearing none, would you call the roll?
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Motion carried. Moving on to student services. And we have no items at this time.
No items.
All right. Then we will move on to certificated personnel.
No items for information at this time. A number of items for board approval tonight. Ron Foltz, who is the assistant principal at the high school, will be retiring at the end of the year. So, we're glad for him, but it does mean we're going to get out our feelers to see who we can fill those positions. Item B are a number of resignations from supplemental positions. And then the following are really additions, substitute teachers, some supplementals specifically for our resident educators, and then some stipends for our new reading, Orton Gillingham, and then some lay people who are working in some of our pupil activity, things like track and so forth. Those items for your approval tonight.
Okay. I would entertain a motion for approval for the certificated items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, would you call the roll?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes. Motion carried. Moving on to classified staff.
No items for information tonight, but a number of items for approval. The first is for some employment, a 3-hour second shift custodian at Emmett Elementary, bus driver, another custodian at Wigan Street, and then a couple 2-year contracts for years 2 and 3, 4 and 5, substitute employment. One resignation, not as a teacher, but as a custodian doing a little double time. And we do have retirement for Scott Mickley, who's a bus driver. Just been a really, really good bus driver for us, and we're sad that his health has gotten a little worse, and we wish him the best.
I would entertain a motion for the classified staff items as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye. In a second.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Any comments or questions? And again, thank you to Mr. Mickley for his years of service. I know the kids always enjoy his bus rides, so thank you for his many years of service. Would you call the roll?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Yes. Motion carried. Okay. At this time, I will open the floor for board comments. Mr. Workman.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank those that came out and are listening. I don't know some of the parents that are here. I'd just like to thank those that spoke tonight. I hope you know that we take those issues seriously. I know it takes courage to come and talk, and we appreciate that, and certainly listen to those comments. So thank you for coming. Certainly like to thank Dan Emmett. The things that they're doing there is awesome. And you can just see in the video and the kids' faces. I mean, that's all you had to see to know the impact that they're having. So very impressive there. And lastly, I'd like just to congratulate Dr. Bennett.
Thanks.
Another award.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Ward.
Okay. I too would like to thank the parents that came out and spoke this evening. I really do appreciate, I know it's not easy, so appreciate the willingness to do that. I'm going to take a different tack and talk about the facilities planning piece and having seen the financial report. And I do want to thank Judy and the Treasurer's Office and looking at these forecasts, because we really are, as a community, really being presented with a window of opportunity here. And that may have even been the phrase you used. But, you know, when you look at those projections on operating costs and what it means for the community, and it's about as good a position as the community can be in as it relates to its public schools. And so this really is a time to really re-examine as a community, you know, what we can do for the education of our kids. So I'm really looking forward to this process, and I really do appreciate the superintendent bringing it to us. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Roletta.
Thank you to those who came this evening and spoke, and to those who may be listening at home. Echoing this whole idea, one of the things that we know about our great public schools is that a strong public school equals a stronger community. And if we can move forward into the 21st century of learning for our children and their children, and then we can create this core of community service where we come together for the benefit of everyone in our community. So I'm very excited about this process, and I hope it comes to fruition. I'd also like to say congratulations to our cheerleading team for the great jobs they have done in competition, our wrestling team, and the Jacket Journal. I tell you, that Jacket Journal is something else, and I just am so overwhelmed with the photos and the articles that the students are doing in that. So thank you to them, and kudos to the advisors for that too. Thank you.
Dr. Bennett.
Thank you all for coming this evening, and I guess I would just like to say how impressed I am with our teachers. They work so hard, our teachers and our staff, and they have challenges. We saw some tonight with the way they have to work with students in all situations and problems that we didn't have when we were in school. So I just, even though our facilities are old, we've had 2 blue ribbon schools. You know, our teachers and staff are just amazing, and our administrators. So I appreciate our district so very much. I was talking to a parent today who let me know that her daughter placed first in the county for FFA and with her speech, her presentation, and she'll be going to state, or to the, what the next level is. I think it's regional.
Regional.
So lots of good things going on, and all of these extracurriculars are so important for our kids. I appreciated what Andrea said about, you know, providing more athletics at middle school, and sometimes people think we overemphasize that, but I know those opportunities are what give our kids a chance to excel in an area that they may not be able to excel in school. So all of it together builds a well-rounded person, and that's what we're all about, our kids. So, and thanks to our community for supporting us the way they do. We have a great community. I'm very proud of Mount Vernon. I bragged a little on the Mount Vernon community at Board of Trustee meeting this weekend.
Thank you for that.
Great place to live.
Being the last one, I think a lot of my thoughts were conveyed already, but I will just recap a few of them. Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye, for acknowledging the Mount Vernon cheerleaders. Personal connection, but it is great to see them moving on, and they did a fantastic job to earn their way to state, so I was able to watch that. As Mateo alluded to, a lot of the winter sports are winding down, and it's exciting to see the seniors that are being recognized in their respective events. It takes a lot of grit, determination, and a lot of parent participation to get them through an event and all the way to their senior year. So thank you to the kids and to the parents that have worked with them. I hope I don't say this last name wrong, but Natasha Jose was recognized with the Young Musicians competition, the high school level, in a violin solo. So that's exciting. And I think Dan Emmett kind of alluded to is how are we filling these kids' buckets every day? And as we fill their buckets, that then spills over into our community. And that's exciting to see when we can help them find their purpose and learn how to manage themselves. And lastly, just a thank you to Mr. Cedar and to his fellow Kiwanians, if I may. Exciting to see the number of community members that are coming into our elementary schools reading to the kids. And that's a great way to bring our community and our schools together. And so that's wonderful to see. And to the parents that spoke tonight, thank you for sharing your concerns. And as Tim said, those are taken seriously and we will get those addressed. So that's all we have.
One other thing.
Yes.
Regarding the parents who spoke this evening.
Yes.
Thank you for being so polite.
Yes, absolutely.
That was
Yes.
really appreciated.
It was, yes. Thank you for noting that. Any other? Mr. Cedar, Mrs. Forney? All right. Hearing none, I would like to call for executive session tonight to discuss the appointment employment of a employee. And we'll entertain a motion to go into our executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola-Dye. And a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Will you call the roll?
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Ward?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett? Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes, thank you. Motion carried.